past the hour. Welcome back to Morning Joe. Joining us now, member of the Armed Services Committee, Republican Senator Deb Fischer of Nebraska. Also with us, senior editor at the New Republic, Rebecca Traister. Her latest piece, she explains why calling Hillary Clinton's candidacy inevitable is problematic. So why don't we start there? Why is it problematic?
Because there's nothing inevitable about it. I mean, we called it inevitable 6 years ago, too.
Right.
It was not inevitable.
It was. Yeah.
And it's sort of, I mean, the whole idea that we would say the idea of a female president is inevitable in a country that's never had one in 230 years, it's crazy. Of course, there are a million things that can go wrong. We saw illustrations of it last time, and similar and different things can go wrong this time.
Senator Fischer, isn't it exciting, though, to see a woman jumping in, and she has accomplishments?
Well, of course. You know, we're looking at the first woman, serious candidate to run for president of the United States. That's groundbreaking. But I would question her accomplishments. I questioned her rollout. I felt that it was disappointing of Mrs. Clinton not to express a vision for the country. Being the first serious woman candidate, I was hoping she would step forward and tell us how she's going to improve the lives of middle-class Americans.
Thought it was a little flat.
It was very flat.
So
she didn't list any accomplishments, and that's been challenged.
So, Rebecca, that's obviously a lot of people have been wondering, why is Hillary running? What's behind it, other than just running because she wants to be president of the United States? Do you expect specifics, or is she going to play it safe generally?
I do expect that there'll be specifics. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on her to provide those specifics because already there's some blowback about the vagueness of the rollout, which I actually thought, I think it's pretty hard in an introductory video to lay out, A, all your accomplishments, especially when you're such a familiar figure to so many Americans, and B, to sort of start listing your policy positions. I thought I actually was very pleased with the video. I was surprised by how smooth it was. But I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of pressure as she goes to Iowa on this van tour that she's doing to start speaking very specifically about what she plans to do this time.
And Senator, let's talk about both parties. It looks like the presumptive nominee, and again, nobody's presumptive, but just if you listen to Washington elites, they'll say it's going to be Bush and Clinton. And as I always joke, Bush and Clinton 25 years later, like this time it's personal. Is that really what Americans want? Do Americans really want a Bush versus a Clinton?
Americans want someone who's going to lay out that vision. And I agree that it can't be laid out in this slick video. But why didn't we hear a speech? Why didn't we hear really a rollout with some substance?
Well, let me turn the sort of the question back on you, because Senator Marco Rubio is going to be announcing today, I believe. What are his accomplishments compared to Hillary Clinton? I mean,
well, I hope that he will list those for us. I think that's really important. I think Marco has a good story to tell. Has to be the best speaker that's out there from either party. He's very inspiring, but he's going to have to put forth those accomplishments. I think with Marco, you hear a lot with foreign policy, and that's a main concern for Americans. Who's going to keep us safe? That's in the news. That's what I hear as I travel the state of Nebraska. People want to make sure we have a leader who's going to keep us safe.
Tomorrow is Equal Pay Day. You have an equal pay amendment. The one thing it doesn't have in it, though, is unless I'm wrong here, it has no lawsuit provision. So then what legs does it have if it goes through?
It enforces current law.
How, if you can't sue?
Well, no, with the other equal pay amendment that was passed during the budget process, that amendment lifted all the caps. There were no caps. That's unheard of. That's unheard of with any kind of lawsuit. Angus King couldn't even vote for that. Angus supported my provision, which has that non-retaliation clause in it that the president had an executive order on a year ago.
But then how does someone fix the problem if there is one?
We fix the problem by allowing people to be able to discuss and have that openness so that they know what other people are making, and then follow the current law that we have with equal pay.
Transparency, you think, will help?
Transparency is important.
And
it's what you always say to women.
Absolutely.
You need to find out who's getting paid for doing the same job that you're doing.
I love it.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Rebecca.
Well, but what's the thinking behind there being a non-retaliation clause? What's the argument behind not having that in there?
Oh, it is in my bill. It is in my amendment that passed, that we have to have that non-retaliation clause. And the reason for it is knowledge is power. And if you understand what people who are working side by side with you, what they're making, then you can follow current law.
But why not offer lawsuits as a tool, to back up pushing toward equal pay?
Well, I think Senator Mikulski's amendment went way too far when it eliminated the caps. As I said, that's never taken place
lawsuits.
before.
It's just
Correct.
not unlimited.
Right.
Okay.
You know, her amendment was, well, as we like to say, it was great for trial attorneys, not that great for the American people.
Let's check in with Business for the Bell now with CNBC's Sarah Eisen. Sarah, what are investors looking for on Wall Street this week?
Two biggies, Mika, and that would be earnings and economic data. And the reason it's going to be so important this week is because we're still on Wall Street trying to answer the question, what happened in the first 3 months of the year? We knew that economic data basically ground to a halt. Our economy ground to a halt. That improvement we were seeing in the labor market with jobs also slowed down. So the question going forward is, was it just a really brutal winter weather problem and some other temporary issues like the port congestion, or is there something deeper going on in the economy? This week is going to be a big one. It really kicks off in full on Tuesday. That's when we start hearing from the big banks, JP Morgan Chase and Wells Fargo. Of course, we'll want to see what lending looked like broadly in America, Bank of America on Wednesday, and then some of the other ones on Thursday. It's going to be earnings, and it's going to be the data, retail sales out tomorrow as well. Back to you guys.
All right, Sarah Eisen, thank you very much.
So there's a commercial that talks about retirement accounts, and you know, people are walking around, they all have the numbers over their head.
Yes.
How would your career have been different if when you walked into your first job in a newsroom or somewhere else, I ask this of anybody, you could see the numbers over their head. Oh, they're paying them this amount. They're paying them. I mean, what a huge difference that would make.
I think it would level the playing field right away. And I think there's problems with transparency as well, just as there are problems with lawsuits. It's not all cut and dry.
Yeah.
But we have to get to a point where we don't have a pay disparity between men and women. We've got to work on that together.
It's a great start.
It's a good start. Thank you so much, Senator Fischer. Thank you, Rebecca Traister.
And Rebecca, nothing inevitable here, right?
No.
Nothing.
No, there's 19 months of no inevitability ahead of us.
Long way to go.
I think she knows that's still ahead. Why Mitt Romney